Uh, I don't know what to say. He is the best that's ever played, I think. So, yeah, I don't know.
9 dribbles, a record that survived since 1966, and a man who couldn't say a word about it for 3 straight days. That man is Erling Haaland, one of the most ruthless strikers alive, not someone who hands out praise, not someone who gets impressed easily. And when he finally broke his silence, he wasn't talking about the goals, he wasn't talking about the comeback. He was talking about something he watched a 39-year-old man do that he still, by his own admission, cannot explain. Within minutes, his words were everywhere, and torn apart, chopped down, recaptioned, rebuilt into a dozen versions that contradict each other. One clip has him calling it impossible. Another has him barely speaking at all. Somewhere in between is the truth, and almost nobody watching this right now has actually heard it. There's a second story buried inside this one too. A tense, face-to-face exchange between Bellingham and Messi that the cameras caught, and that the internet turned into a full-blown feud in under an hour. Real tension? Or something the entire internet got completely wrong? By the time this video ends, you will know exactly what Haaland really said, word for word. You will know exactly what happened between Messi and Bellingham. And you will hear the one thing Messi quietly admitted he was afraid of this entire tournament. Because Sunday, Messi plays for something no 39-year-old on earth is supposed to still be chasing. And once you hear what's coming, you will never watch him the same way again. Argentina walked into that semifinal as reigning World Cup champions, a title that paints a target on you rather than protecting you. Every match becomes a referendum on whether the last 4 years actually meant anything, whether the crown was earned or is simply being defended out of habit. England arrived like a team that smelled blood, battle-tested, dangerous, built to finally do what no England side had managed in decades, end an Argentine golden era on the biggest stage in the sport. With Bellingham driving the midfield, it looked like the one team in the entire tournament with the composure and class to actually pull it off. For most of the night, it did. England took the lead. The clock bled away. Argentina's fans went quiet in that specific, sickening way that only happens when a nation starts bracing for heartbreak it can already feel coming. Then, in the final minutes, Messi. Not a goal himself. Something arguably harder. 2 assists back-to-back in the dying minutes of the biggest match of the year, first dragging Argentina level, then flipping the entire game on its head. 2-1. Argentina survives. Argentina advances. Bellingham's England is finished. But the scoreline was never going to be the whole story, not with a performance like the one that was about to be dissected for days. Messi completed 9 successful dribbles in that single match, against an England defense that had spent weeks preparing specifically for him. And here's the number that stopped people cold. He's now hit that exact dribble count in a World Cup knockout match twice in his career, once as a 23-year-old against Germany back in 2010, and now again at 39. 16 years apart. Same number, same magnitude of stage. By some counts, he also now sits on a run of World Cup knockout stage assists that no player has matched since 1966. The majority delivered exactly when the pressure is highest, and the margin for error basically disappears. Not friendlies, not group stage walkovers. The biggest games there are, against the best defenses on the planet. Dribbling at that level isn't footwork alone, it's explosiveness, fast twitch acceleration, the exact physical trait that's supposed to erode the moment a player crosses 30, let alone 39. Every striker on earth knows this. It's why the greatest dribblers of every generation eventually become passers by their mid-30s. The body forces the change. Nobody escapes it. Messi, apparently, didn't get that memo. Not the scoreline, not even the comeback. The fact that a 39-year-old matched the explosive output of a player half his tournament experience with his team running on empty is what turned this into a masterclass instead of just a good night. But the masterclass wasn't the only thing that walked out of that stadium. Cameras caught a tense, close-up exchange between Bellingham and Messi after a contested ball. Words. A hard look. The kind of moment broadcasters slow down and replay frame by frame because it looks explosive, even before anyone actually knows what was said. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Clips, freeze frames, captions demanding to know whether Messi and Bellingham had it out on the pitch, whether there was real simmering tension between the game's aging icon and the player half the football world has already crowned his heir. It's the kind of moment where everyone builds a theory and almost nobody has the facts. Bellingham eventually shut it down himself. By his own account, the entire thing was a mix-up over which foul they were even discussing. He thought Messi meant an earlier incident, said as much, and the confusion cleared itself up almost as fast as it started. No confrontation, no disrespect, just two elite competitors sorting something out in real time. He added that sharing a pitch with Messi, even in the middle of a devastating elimination, was something close to an honor. For most players, that would have ended the story completely. But somebody else had been watching that masterclass a lot more closely than anyone realized. A few days later, Haaland said something that caught the entire football world off guard. He wasn't talking about the controversy, he barely mentioned Bellingham at all. He was talking about Messi's body, and what it's still doing at an age when, by every rule of sports science, it should have stopped doing this years ago. Haaland reportedly admitted that after the final whistle, he didn't celebrate, didn't analyze, he just sat there, silent, because what he'd watched didn't feel like a normal performance from a normal 39-year-old footballer. As a striker himself, he knows exactly how brutal it is to pull off even one clean dribble at that level, let alone 9, against a defense that's had weeks to specifically prepare. He knows that by 39, a player's body is supposed to have handed that advantage back to the defender a long time ago. Messi, according to Haaland, simply refused to accept the trade. There's a deeper point buried in what he was reportedly getting at too. It isn't only about speed or fitness, it's audacity. The willingness to still attempt the impossible move, in the biggest moment there is, without a flicker of hesitation, because doubt ages a player faster than the body ever does. Messi, evidently, never lost that belief. Here's where the story got twisted. Within hours, half the football internet was running versions that don't agree with each other. Some chopped his words down to a soundbite, some claimed he directly compared himself to Messi. He didn't. What Haaland actually communicated was more specific and more measured than the recycled clips suggest. He wasn't hyping a highlight reel. He was, as a fellow striker, trying to explain why 9 dribbles at 39 shouldn't be possible. That's a professional's honest confusion, not a soundbite built for a thumbnail. If a version you've seen sounds too clean and quotable, it's probably not the real one. In the moments after the whistle, Messi didn't sound like a man who'd just delivered a masterclass. He sounded like someone who knew exactly how close it came to going the other way. Speaking to Thai Sports, Messi didn't downplay the stakes of facing Bellingham's England for a second. He admitted that losing this match, even as reigning champions, even with everything this group has already achieved, would have opened the door to unfair, brutal criticism back home. Not because the team owed anyone anything, but because that's simply the standard Argentina holds itself to. Win the last one, and it's still not enough. He made clear the group believed they were the better side on the pitch that night, even while trailing late, and that belief is exactly what let them keep pushing instead of folding once the deficit looked settled. He also defended a roster that faced heavy skepticism over injuries heading into the tournament, saying the group finds another gear specifically when it's written off. That when they lock in under real pressure, they pull something out of each other that never shows up on paper. And almost as an aside, he noted that reaching back-to-back finals as defending champions proves this run was never luck. It's 4 straight years of sustained excellence that, in his mind, speaks for itself regardless of the outside noise. Giuliano Simeone's reaction was the opposite of measured, raw, emotional, almost overwhelmed on camera. His message was simple. Messi is 39, has already won everything a footballer could dream of winning, and has nothing left to prove to anyone on earth. And he's still out there fighting like this is his first tournament, not possibly his last. For Simeone, and by his account for the rest of the squad, that's exactly what makes this group different. When a player who's already achieved everything still runs himself into the ground for the badge, it changes what everyone around him feels obligated to give back. So what does Spain actually do with all of this? They've watched the same clips as everyone else. They know Messi's dribble numbers weren't a one-off. They matched a performance from 16 years ago, delivered in the final minutes of the match, precisely when fatigue is supposed to be at its worst. There is no real scouting report for that. You can build the perfect defensive shape, study every tendency on film, assign your best individual defender, and still watch a 39-year-old find the one gap you never accounted for, because that gap was never tactical. It was will. There was never a real feud between Messi and Bellingham, just a split-second mix-up that the internet turned into a headline before either player got a chance to explain it. Bellingham cleared it up himself, with respect, not resentment. But that controversy accidentally shone a spotlight on something far bigger. A 39-year-old somehow still performing like it's 2010, against the best defenses on the planet, precisely when everyone else is feeling the pressure hardest. And it took a player like Haaland, someone with nothing to gain from praising Messi, to look at that performance and admit that even he doesn't have a clean explanation for it. Now he's one match away from history, Argentina against Spain, a chance to become just the third team ever to defend a World Cup title. So, now you know what Haaland actually admitted, what Messi was afraid of, and that there was never any real beef with Bellingham at all. Spain has 90 minutes to find an answer nobody else in this tournament has found. Do they have it? Drop your prediction below and subscribe now, because Sunday we find out if history repeats itself.